What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Weekly Breakdown. My name is Josh.
And my name is Taylor.
And we are the WDW Couple, fourth week in a row.
Oh, wow, is it number 4?
It is, which means that we've successfully made it an entire month.
Woo! Yeah.
Yippee!
It doesn't even feel like it, honestly. It just feels like it's part of our, regular schedule now. And, yeah, it's been easy, I guess.
It's easy when everything's in lockdown. I feel like you have so much more time on your hands.
Yeah, it actually does feel like that. But the days have been going by fast. It's mid-April now.
Yeah, they have,
so,
which is crazy.
It is crazy.
Moving on to this week's sponsors, we have got Gold Gal Getaways. Whether you're planning a... Jeez, I really have
he
to
does
read
this
thing.
every time.
The Weekly Breakdown is brought to you by Gold Gal Getaways. No matter the trip, whether you have small kids, big kids, or no kids at all, we have agents who can help you plan your next vacation to Florida or a destination around the world. You can submit a quote in the show notes or in the description of this video, and an agent will get back to you with a quote or more information. Or you can head on over to www.goldgalgetaways.com.
It's the regular 3 W's.
Added a couple of W's in there. And this is also always brought to you by JTR Media, which has been awesome. We've been getting a lot of requests.
A lot of bookings lately.
So
everybody's excited for their vacations now, extra excited.
Yeah, I mean, we're not recording anything at the moment because the parks are closed and everybody's
the world's closed
in lockdown. But we have been getting some people who are booking in the future, which is great. So if you're looking to capture some of those magical moments, such as weddings, engagements, vacations, or anything else you could imagine, we are here to help capture it for you. You can submit a quote in the show notes or email info@jtrmedia.org, or you can even head on over to www.jtrmedia.org.
You are so weird.
I'm working on my second cup of coffee.
Oh my. Clearly you did not need the second cup. You are being weird. Anyway, we are still planning on going on our Disney Fantasy group cruise. There is no information in the future about cruises being canceled. They have only canceled things till May. But we're going on our first Disney group cruise in August of this year, August 22nd to 25th, 2020, on the Disney Fantasy out of Port Canaveral. It's a 3-night cruise, so we're only going to have one stop, and it is at Disney's Castaway Cay. Yeah, so there is a form in our show notes, or you can email events@goldgalgetaways.com. We are also planning our third group cruise at this time as well, and it is going to be a 7-night Alaskan cruise in July 2021 out of Seattle. You can email events@goldgalgetaways.com and tell them, make sure you specify which WDW Couple group cruise you would like to go on, whether it's the Disney cruise or the Alaskan cruise or both. They can get you a quote for both if you want to go with both times. And we plan on doing a lot of sea days. Well, we don't plan on the sea days. We're going to do activities on the sea days, and then on our ports of call, we're going to do some group activities together, group
some
tours
excursions
and stuff. Yeah.
You can always support us as well through Patreon. You can head on over to www.patreon.com/the WDW Couple and become a amazing sponsor for the channel and help in creating some new content. So we've got quite a few over there. They're really great, great with feedback, and they get a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm going to be posting, well, I've already posted it when this gets released, some behind-the-scenes takeouts and some stuff from some older videos for the bus transportation that got posted this week. So, and of course, leading into that, and you can go back and check out if you haven't already. We made the Cobb salad on Monday from Hollywood Brown Derby. It was pretty good. I don't really remember if it's super close, but somebody commented that another good Cobb salad that beats it is over at Animal Kingdom at Rainforest Cafe. I find that very shocking, but when it opens back up.
How did you bridge to that from Patreon?
I'll be there.
I'm confused.
How did I bridge to that? Because I, at the time of this posting, had posted behind the scenes video. I actually didn't do it right this second yet. I plan to, because I have to cut it out and make it a project. I was quite
confused of what was happening then.
Anyways, but yeah, so we posted that. The How to Disney bus transportation around Walt Disney World posted either on Wednesday or Thursday. Haven't decided yet.
Yeah, that's on our YouTube channel.
And hopefully you guys found that interesting. If you did, please leave us a comment. Please give us a thumbs up. Leave a thumbs up on this video as well. It helps us in the algorithm. And Copycat Cocktails. This week we have done a Maui themed because Dwayne The Rock Johnson just released his own line of tequila. Mm-hmm. So we thought it'd be cool to make a Maui themed tiki drink with tequila and also a mocktail for the kiddos out there.
Yeah, we're trying to be better about making sure we have a mocktail. So. Yeah,
we're going to try and make one just about every episode. So it might be 3 drinks, 2 alcohol, 1 mocktail.
Oh, wow.
We'll see.
Josh is getting...
Not this week. But in the future.
Well, obviously not this week because the video will have already been posted.
But it hasn't hasn't even been shot yet.
No, we're filming it after this. But we already have it planned out what we're doing. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, moving into this week's weekly breakdown, it's very controversial because everybody gets controversial when you talk about Disneyland and Disney World and comparing the attractions.
Yes, people get controversial, I feel like, when you talk about comparing Disneyland and Disney World in general, which that is not what we are doing today.
I'm pretty sure it says Disneyland versus Disney World attractions.
No, just in general, like that Disneyland's smaller. Heaven forbid I say that. And Disney World is bigger. And I think we've talked about it a little bit before, but we like that Disneyland is smaller because when you go there, it's so easy to get around and like go do things.
That's great.
Like
I really, really enjoy it.
You can get so much more done than you can in Disney World in a day.
Sorry, there's water in my ear. I just took a shower.
Oh my gosh. He literally cannot sit still over here right now, and it's driving me insane. Like, I've been holding my tongue this whole entire time.
Good for you.
Because he's like, oh my gosh.
Well,
he's like the dogs when they want to play.
Also, I don't think we really had officially announced this or said this. We were live streaming the other day, and we had talked about it, but we were planning...
that wasn't a Patreon live stream.
Oh, that was the Patreon live stream?
Yeah.
Another benefit of being a patron or a patron on Patreon. We do some bi-weekly live streams. Anyways, we did plan to go to Disneyland. We had airlines booked. We specifically were going out there for... What were we going out there for? What was it?
We were going
after-hours party?
No, it was Disneyland After Dark Villains.
Okay. But for people who don't know what that is, it is similar to an after-hours party here at Walt Disney World.
Except
correct?
It's way better.
Yes. Just for comparison as to what it is. So they closed down the park. You bought the ticket. Only those people who bought tickets can get in. It's very limited, which is much better than here in Disney World.
And the reason we wanted to go to the Villains event, because they've actually had 3 other events this year, and the Villains was the last one, and then I think there's a Star Wars one like this fall or something that they have eventually announced. But we booked the Villains one when they announced it, and it took me no talking Josh into it at all. He was just like, okay, let's go. But they were gonna have villains out for meet and greets.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about Disneyland After Dark events is they have very rare character meet and greets.
Well, that's the biggest difference between here and there is that they bring their villains out to do meet and greets. They don't ever do that here.
So basically what we're going to do today is compare and contrast the Disney World and Disneyland attractions that are the same. We're not comparing and contrasting all of Disneyland and all of Disney World attractions, just the ones that are the same. So like something like Pirates of the Caribbean and Jungle Cruise and the Treehouse that they have in Adventureland, that sort of thing. Because that makes sense to compare to me. And I've seen a lot of articles about people comparing and contrasting those, and I was like, that would be a really interesting topic to talk about in a podcast. So
sure,
I thought that was what we could talk about. But we've actually only had, because we had to cancel this one that was supposed to be coming up like next week or something.
The end of the month.
We've only been to Disneyland one time. It was last March, and we were there for technically 5 days total, but 4 days in the parks. Mm-hmm. So we actually didn't get to ride everything, and we didn't get to ride Space Mountain because it was closed, and it was cold, so we didn't ride Splash Mountain because first off, Josh doesn't even like to ride water rides. But
I don't like
we didn't even
soggy shorts,
see
bro.
Splash Mountain because it was like in a far back corner, and we never went there. So we didn't ride Winnie the Pooh either, which I wish we would have because I've heard Disneyland's Winnie the Pooh is better than Walt Disney World's. Well, the first one I have on the list here, these are in no particular order at all. I literally just typed them on here as I thought of them. And the first one I always think of is Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland and Disney World. They are similar, but they are different.
Well, Pirates at Disneyland is longer.
It is.
It has a few more scenes, I think, obviously because it is longer. And the whole queue setup is a little bit different as well.
Yes, definitely different. So the queue at Disney World, since that's our home park, I will say, that whole queue is all covered and most of it's actually inside. Yeah, the queue at Walt Disney World for Pirates is all inside except for the one little part that's outside, but that's all covered. And then you go inside and you're going through like a queue to get, obviously you're going through a queue to get on the ride. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying that, I was like, that makes absolutely no sense because that's exactly what a queue is for. You can see like cannons and cannonballs, and there's pirates in like cells, and I love the ones that are like playing chess that are skeletons. And
oh yeah,
where it's different at Disneyland because that queue is mostly all outside, and it's actually not a very long queue, and that ride gets really busy, and it does not have a fast pass at Disneyland, remember?
Oh, that's right, it doesn't.
Because we ran to it that one day when it was raining in the morning and there was nobody there. But we had walked past it before, and like it is just packed outside.
It gets busy.
Waiting to get in there. But it's really cool because when you get inside, you can actually see the boats going like right beside the queue. Like, remember? It's like really weird, honestly.
It's very like that. That whole loading area is very open, which is kind of nice. One big difference, though, between it and Disney World is that it actually is very similar to the Three Caballeros in Epcot, which in that it runs out into a restaurant. So you can be sitting in Blue Bayou and be eating your dinner in a very, very extremely dark lit dining experience and kind of see the boats go by. But you have to be right up against the fence or the edge, I guess. Really,
to have a good view of the boats. Yeah.
So, which is cool, but you know, I don't really. I'm afraid to really say any of my opinions about it.
What? Why?
I don't know.
Isn't that what this is about?
Yeah, I just don't want to get ripped apart in comments and things.
Okay, whatever. So, yeah, Pirates at Disneyland is definitely longer. There's a few scenes that are different at Disneyland when you're going like through that one like long tunnel, remember?
Yeah.
And there's like a couple different scenes on the side. Like I remember there's one where he's like sitting in gold or something, and then there's one where it's like in a bed, like a skeleton in a bed or something.
Yeah.
Which was different, and I almost thought unnecessary, but was still cool, I guess.
I mean,
cool seeing different scenes on the same ride.
It's the original Pirates. Or was Walt Disney World's
the
original Pirates? Which one came first? Their Pirates or our Pirates?
Disneyland.
Okay.
I don't have the years written down.
No, I mean, it's a great attraction. It's definitely a good one to experience. It's a classic. I think I prefer more of Walt Disney World just because it's a little bit shorter. It just because it's a dark ride, but it just takes up so much time. You know, it's like a 25-minute attraction.
I think the one at Walt Disney World is long enough to begin with, and then the one at Disneyland is even longer. But so I guess I prefer the Walt Disney World version, but I do like that, like the queue when you are getting on Pirates at Disneyland, and like you can see the boats come right there, and you get on the boat, and then you like go past the restaurant. Like I just think that's cool. Like I always loved that feeling on Living with the Land in Epcot of like when people were in the restaurant and they could look down and see you like, oh, there's people on that ride. Like, and when you ride the Three Caballeros in Mexico Pavilion, like, oh, those people can see you on the boat. Like, I just like to be that person on the boat that's like, oh, hey, I'm over here. I don't know why, but I've always liked that.
Now, I will say one thing that is nice about Disneyland is you do have a higher chance of seeing Johnny Depp walking around inside the attraction.
That has happened.
Than you would ever have here at Walt Disney World, just because he's in California so often.
Well, I think we can move on to Soarin'.
Okay.
We were expecting it to still be Soarin' for California. And it was Soarin' around the world. They did change it too. I'm like, it's been a year since we've been there. And we were really looking forward to going back again so that we could like, you know, refresh our memory and just, you know, do more and do the things that we didn't get to do last time.
Right.
So, my bad.
Well, I found that to be kind of disappointing though, because it's California. That's kind of where I think they should have just left it as Soarin' out of California, because it's a different experience. You come to Walt Disney World, you get Soarin' around the world.
Yeah, you're right. I do remember looking forward to the orange.
The only difference was that you just finish at Disneyland instead of finishing at Epcot. But it's in a huge building. It's like a giant hangar, which is kind of cool. It's themed differently than what it is here in Walt Disney World.
I like the theming a lot better at California.
Absolutely. So do I. Because it's designed to be that, And here it's in the land, which
you're at it's like Grizzly Peak or something is like that area.
Yeah. Something like that. And don't quote us on that. We're probably wrong, but I know what you're talking about. But here it's in the land pavilion in Epcot, which I guess in the realm of Epcot and how they have things arranged, it makes sense, but it doesn't whenever you compare it to Disneyland and how Disneyland is themed for Soarin' and where it's at.
Yeah, so. I think Soarin' definitely fits the theming better at Disneyland. And I I love the sign that they have out front, and then I love the queue, how it's like almost kind of how you're going on an adventure. Yeah. Like they have all the backpacks and stuff in there. So I like that.
Now, I am pretty sure that they do have just as many theaters in there, so they do continue to move pretty quickly, just like they do here. So, but they're the same attraction. Queue's the only thing that's different is the queue.
Dang, I can't believe I messed that up. Oh my gosh.
So we'll move on to It's a Small World, which is extremely different in the fact that it is much longer at Disneyland. Yeah. Partially open up outside, not totally enclosed.
Just the beginning and the very end.
Yeah, but I think that's a big difference. I think that's a big difference about the attraction. And I kind of like Small World, I think, in Disneyland than I like it more in Disneyland than I do here.
I do too. And Small World was probably one of my favorite rides whenever I was little, going to Walt Disney World. That was something our whole entire family could ride together. We all got in one of those boats and we'll go ride around and sing the song, and then it'd be stuck in your head the whole entire day. But I love the Disneyland version, and I love to talk about the Disneyland version of It's a Small World, because I will never forget that moment whenever we walked up to it and we got in those boats, and it just clicked in my head, this is from the movie Tomorrowland. That movie is not popular at all. Tomorrowland with George Clooney and whoever else is in it.
Unfortunately.
It was actually a pretty decent movie. I liked it. But that scene where they're at the World's Fair and they get in this little boat, they filmed it right there at Disneyland. So, and when we walked up to that, I had no idea that they filmed that there. And when we walked up to it and we got in those boats, I'm like, this is right out of the movie Tomorrowland. So then I searched it and they filmed it right there. So I was like, that is really cool that they actually filmed a movie right there at Disneyland so they could get that, because that ride was at the World's Fair.
It was.
So that was really cool and I liked it. So that's a feeling of nostalgia for me, even though I didn't experience It's a Small World in Disneyland as a child, and I obviously didn't go to that World's Fair whenever it was, a long time ago, before my parents were born. Who knows if my grandparents were born? I don't know what year it happened. It was a long time ago. Whatever. But it gives me that sense of Disney history and Disney nostalgia that I love about Disney, whether it's Disney World or Disneyland or Disney movies or whatever, just Disney. I love that.
Yeah.
And then I also really like when you go into the attraction that there are Disney characters in the different scenes.
Right. Yeah. Princesses, basically, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty much it's Cinderella, Jasmine.
Alice and the Rabbit are in there. Lilo and Stitch. Little Mermaid and Flounder. Who else is in there? Oh no, Woody and Jessie and Bullseye.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's that. There's not a kind of Frontierland or American type scene in It's a Small World at Walt Disney World, and there is at Disneyland, and it has Woody and Jessie, and I was like, Woody and I'm pretty sure Jessie's in there too, but I specifically remember Woody and Bullseye, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what? So it's a smaller scene in the ride, but I loved that little part.
Well, it's a little bit more inclusive into the Disney brand, whereas what is here in Disney World is probably closer to what you would have found at the World's Fair as far as being culturally representative and not introducing a bunch of IPs into the attraction. Not that it's like, oh my gosh, it's Pixar and Toy Story.
No,
not like that. Like it's very subtle. They're still the regular
little dolls.
Yeah, little animatronic dolls. They're just dressed to represent that character. So.
Yeah, it was like actually, it's like you wouldn't even know where those dolls were at, except for where they're placed. So they're kind of like by themselves a little bit. So it's easier to pick out like, oh, that's Cinderella. Oh, that's Alice and the White Rabbit. Oh, there's Lilo and Stitch on a surfboard. But they just fit so well into the theming. They look so cute too.
They do. And it's a good attraction. I mean, it is, I think it is a little bit longer than Disney World's maybe.
It definitely is. I feel like it has more scenes.
It does.
Or at least the scenes are longer.
Yeah.
So there's a Mulan too. Mushu and Mulan.
Oh yeah, there is. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But I definitely like Disneyland's version better.
Yeah. Okay.
Most definitely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Haunted Mansion. Because they are different. And probably one of the biggest differences, spoiler alert, if you don't know or if you haven't figured it out, is that the one in Disneyland, the stretching room, is actually an elevator.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And you do actually, I believe you do actually go downstairs. Obviously, they couldn't do that here in Florida because...
you can't go down in Florida.
Magic Kingdom is up off the ground a little bit. There are utilidors that are down below there, but where Haunted Mansion is at, it's just, it wouldn't have been really possible to do that. So you don't actually go down at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World.
You don't move.
But yeah, so, and it's a little bit different. Still an amazingly great attraction. I think probably one of the best things about it is that during the holiday seasons, it actually is...
At Disneyland.
It gets an overlay at Disneyland. We don't get that here in Walt Disney World. I'm not really sure why we don't.
I just feel like our Haunted Mansion is different.
I mean, it is a little bit, yeah.
I feel like if they dressed ours up for like with the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, I just don't feel like it would look right.
No.
I think the theming of like just the mansion style with that brick and everything, I don't feel like that would look right if it was decorated compared to their mansion that's more like Southern style out in, because it's in New Orleans Square. Right. Like with having the, those big pillars, those big white pillars and everything out front. And
no, that makes sense.
White, like I feel like that one's easier to decorate and change the theming, at least outside. Inside doesn't really matter. You could change that on either attraction.
I mean, I don't really care about the outside as much, just because, especially for the Halloween parties, whenever you're there, you've got Madame Leota and her sister that go out there and they do their little chit chat thing. I think that it's spooky enough and themed well enough that it doesn't need that here in Walt Disney World, but it would be kind of cool to see it overlaid, I think, inside for the attraction and a little bit different. Maybe have Jack Skellington hosting.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. But
we've never got to experience the overlay at Disneyland, though.
We have not.
Because we've only been there in March.
Yep.
Not one time.
And we would have been back in April, but it wouldn't matter. They don't have an overlay for that either. But now, one disadvantage of that, though, is that basically half of the year, their Haunted Mansion has an overlay. So, you got to kind of have to take that with, if you want to experience the original regular Haunted Mansion, you have to go when it's not that time of the year.
Spring and summer, basically.
So, yeah.
Yes. Which, is there any other differences, really? I mean, the mansions are pretty much the same on the inside. The outsides look completely different. Right. Completely different style of mansion.
Yeah, they're two different areas within the parks.
Ours is Liberty Square at Walt Disney World, and Disneyland's is New Orleans Square. So completely different
theming.
Like theming and almost time period. Yeah.
Culture.
And then on the inside, you're actually, I forget which part it is, but I think it's the hallway with the picture frames. When you're actually riding down that hall, in Disney World, but you're still walking down that hall in Disneyland, and it's still part of the queue. Because when we walked through that part, I was like, oh, that's weird. And then you got on the ride. And then pretty much most of it's similar, or the same. It's very similar.
I think it is pretty close.
Except they have the Hatbox Ghost at Disneyland right after you like come out of the attic or whatever, or coming out of the attic, I guess. Which is kind of cool. That was cool to see that. And we got stopped right in front of the Hatbox Ghost when we rode it. So that was cool because like that was something I've always wanted to see is the Hatbox Ghost. Like I know what it is and I've seen pictures of it. I've never actually seen it in person until that trip. And then we got stopped in front of it and I was like, oh, this is perfect.
It was good.
Mm-hmm. Which version do you like better though?
I'm not really sure. That's a tough one.
You don't have a preference? You're good with either?
I think I'm good with either. Yeah. I would like to be able to see the overlay, though.
I would like to see the overlays,
That might sway my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because you do like Nightmare Before Christmas.
I do. I like that movie a lot. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have a preference either, I don't think. I would be good with either one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm just used to what ours looks like on the outside. And I do really like our queue. Our outside queue. The interactive outside queue.
Right.
If you don't use FastPass. I do like that. When they updated
one of the few outside queues that we actually have in Disney World. Mm-hmm. We don't have a lot.
I guess so.
You know, because 6 months out of the year it's raining every day. Every day.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, moving on to Big Thunder Mountain. It's a pretty good attraction. It's pretty cool. I think for the most part it is basically a copy and paste.
It's pretty close to the same.
And the only real difference is that you can actually walk all the way around Big Thunder Mountain, right? I'm pretty sure.
At least close to it, if not the whole way around.
And queue layout is different, obviously. And there is FastPass for it that you can use for both of them. But probably the biggest difference is when they did the updates to both Thunder Mountains here in Walt Disney World and in Disneyland is that they added this really cool kind of explosion TNT type of scene at the end in Disneyland. And we were supposed to get it here, but it never really happened. So
there's like kind of an explosion, but not really.
So, but I mean, it still is a really great attraction both ways, in either way that you look at it or ride it or however you want to experience whatever.
And like the way it's set up, like you can see the walkways and stuff in completely different places than where you would see at Disney World.
Yeah.
And like you go under a bridge or something too. Like you don't even know.
In Disneyland?
You don't even know.
On the train?
Yeah. But you're like going under a walkway.
Maybe it's not very copy and paste then.
I don't know. I mean, it feels like it. It's a roller coaster on a train.
No, I mean it's a great attraction. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm getting the video. I don't know if anybody saw it, where the guy like jumps off of Thunder Mountain going up the slope because he dropped his phone. You don't remember that? That happened in Disneyland. I'm pretty sure. A guy had lost his phone on the basically on the train, so he jumped off when it was going up the slope, which was an automatic. Like immediately, the train stopped running, and the guy like ran down to get his phone. It was a big ordeal. They had to shut the attraction down.
I don't
exit everybody off.
Remember that at all.
Yeah. It happened. I saw it with my own eyes.
Okay. You were there?
On the YouTube. Or maybe it was Facebook. I don't remember.
I liked it too.
It was another good attraction. I think for the most part it's pretty much the same thing. And the next time we go back, I would like to ride it. If we didn't ride it, I'd be okay with it. Yeah. Not riding it. Just because we have it here in Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
So...
On to Jungle Cruise that Josh does not remember.
Go ahead.
I remember taking pictures in the queue, and there was a sign that was like, I forget what it said, but it was like a giraffe, like stretching its legs to like reach the dock and the boat, and it was hilarious. How do you not remember? It's pretty much the same, but it's the original.
It is the original.
Mm-hmm. Comment down below, is there or is there not a tunnel in the Jungle Cruise? Because
there's not a big Bengal tiger.
You're right. There was no tunnel because the tiger was outside.
Right. See?
Ah.
They are different.
The Jungle Cruise still just feels, besides not having a tunnel, feels like the same to me.
Well, of course. I mean, it's basically. I mean, these are all basically the same attractions, right? Like if you haven't been,
I saved the ones that are the most different to be towards the end.
Well, I see that looking at the list, but I mean,
even though I said this is in no particular order.
But in the jungle, yeah, I mean, like here you go through the tunnel. There's a bunch of jokes about going into the tunnel and root canals and things like that. In Disneyland, there is no tunnel.
Now he miraculously remembers.
Well, because I watched this POV really quickly to remember myself, to recall. We were going to do this podcast after we came back from Disneyland. That's what I'm telling myself. To make it sound like I know kind of what I'm talking about.
Whatever.
Yeah. I prefer our jungle cruise here at Walt Disney World than the one at Disneyland because I like going through the tunnel. It's scary.
I like our version of the Jungle Cruise better because you're right. I do like the tunnel. I'm also just kind of used to it. But, yeah, if I'm being honest, I can go without riding the Jungle Cruise for quite a long time. It's a good attraction every once in a while, but it's not like one that I would have to ride every single trip or whatever. I could skip it and I wouldn't be super sad. I hate the queue. Except at Christmas time. Because I feel like the Jungle Cruise queue you stand in forever. Because of the loading and unloading at the boats.
Right. Well, we almost never ride it, though, unless we've got a fast pass. We never do standby because the standby does get extremely long. And again,
I've done the standby once for experience, and it was
And
not
you're just
fun.
standing there. It's not an interactive queue like a lot of attractions
Not
have
in
moved
any
to.
way.
So it might be a little bit more interactive now that you've got the Disney Parks Play app, and there may be something interactive in there with that. But, yeah, I would choose our Jungle Cruise.
Forget about it.
So. All right, well, let's move on to Tarzan's Treehouse. You remember what that looked like? Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk about Swiss Family Robinsons here at Walt Disney World, which is basically a giant treehouse, somewhat themed from the Swiss Family Treehouse movie. That's not what it was called. But
Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah. But one thing that's really cool about here in Magic Kingdom is that it is overlooking an Adventureland. So when you get to the top, you can get a pretty nice view. You can kind of see pirates. You can see where Aladdin's at. The
Tiki Room?
You can look. Oh, yeah. You see the Tiki Room. You can look out across. You can see Cinderella's castle when the fireworks are going off. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know if they really let people stand up there or if they try to keep the line moving, but it is a different perspective for you to see fireworks.
You can see
from
Space
a different
Mountain
area.
from up there, too.
You can see Space Mountain.
And Splash Mountain in the distance.
When you get up to the very top, it's a pretty decent bird's eye view of the park, which is pretty cool. Not to say that you're that high up in the air, but
it's cool.
It is up there, and it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And then the Tarzan's Treehouse in Disneyland is themed to the house that basically Tarzan's parents built whenever they were shipwrecked, I guess, in Africa?
Wherever it happened.
Wherever Tarzan takes place. Well, gorillas are in Africa, aren't they?
Moving on to more about the treehouse.
Yeah, so it's actually different to enter the treehouse than it is at Swiss Family Robinson. Now, both of them have stairs that you have to climb up in and around, so you have to be able to walk through the stairs. But with Tarzan's, you actually walk upstairs around a tree, a smaller tree, and then you walk across a bridge to go get in the rest of the tree.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
And like I said, they're both themed to movies, but the one in Disney World is themed to Swiss Family Robinson, which for me, I've never even seen that before. So
it's a pretty old one.
It's not super relatable for me. Where Tarzan is a movie I've seen a million times, and even though I don't know where it takes place, this is a joke.
It's not a joke. She doesn't know.
It's a joke now. Whatever. Just make me sound dumb.
You did that yourself. I didn't say anything.
It's more relatable for me because I've seen that movie a lot of times, and it's like the treehouse that you see in the movie that they built. And I do like that whenever you're climbing up into the treehouse, it actually scared the crap out of me. The jaguar is up there, and it roars at you. Yeah, it's scary. But it was really cool to be able to see that because it looks just like the one from the movie. Like, it was awesome. And then as you go down through, like, you see their little house. And then down at the bottom, there's actually a Mrs. It's not Tarzan, but I mean, it is and it isn't. There's a Mrs. Potts and Chip, like, teapot and cup. And if you have seen Tarzan, whenever they're doing the Trash in the Camp song, they're actually in that scene, that teapot and that cup. And then they're in the house, which is cool too.
Yeah.
I personally like the Disneyland version better. I honestly did not even know there was a Tarzan's Treehouse before we got to Disneyland. I didn't know until we were walking up towards it, and I was like, we are doing that. Like, that would have been something if we were coming to Walt Disney World for the first time and we saw this was Family Robinson Treehouse. I'd have been like, oh, I can skip that. Because I didn't do it for probably a long time.
I did skip it on my first time to Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Who cares if Josh wanted to experience on his first time there?
Guess what? You live here now, so what's it matter?
I actually would prefer Tarzan's over Swiss Family, just because it's I think it's cooler. It's more fun. And especially walking across that bridge is kind of cool too.
Yes, I do like that bridge part.
All right, let's move on to Indiana Jones and Dinosaur. Now, I feel like that the ride itself is actually a different track layout, but everybody is saying that the tracks are exactly the same, and so they can easily bring Indiana Jones to Walt Disney World here and put it in Animal Kingdom.
That is not a rumor. It's a rumor. That is nothing confirmed.
No, I'm not saying it's a rumor. I'm
just saying because people always say they're bringing it here. They're bringing it here.
Oh, well, I'm just saying. Yeah, people say that they should bring it here. I actually prefer them to just leave them where they're at. It is a very cool attraction. It is very different. But if they're the exact same track layout, why not leave dinosaur themed here? Leave Indiana Jones theme there, and you can experience the different types of theming for the same attraction.
I really like that. It's, I guess, a similar attraction, but they feel completely different.
They do.
Other than that it's the same vehicle. But I like that I have to go to Disneyland to ride that, and that it's not here too. I like rides that are unique. So, I mean, this is an odd topic for me to be talking about if I like their unique rides, but I like something that I can't get at every Disney theme park.
Right.
Like, I like to be able to go places and ride the stuff that I can't get here.
Right. Now, the queues are extremely different for very obvious reasons. One is dinosaur themed, one is Indiana Jones themed. But even at that, the queue itself, the physical queue, is a completely different layout. A very different experience, a lot of different things to see in Indiana Jones, not as much to see here in Walt Disney World. Number one, because the queue is nowhere near as long as what it is in Disneyland.
Nope.
You can see some cool fossils here that they've got in a case, but it's really just more of you do a little bob and weave through the main area here in Walt Disney World, and they've got the T-Rex. But once you go through there, you go right into the movie. It's basically like a museum
area.
And you go right into the movie. Great movie.
The pre-show?
The pre-show. I like the pre-show here more than I like the Indiana Jones one. I think it's more unique and clever.
I think we like the pre-show better than the ride.
Well, I mean, they had to really design it from scratch. Indiana Jones in Disneyland, they actually pulled from the movie, so some of those characters.
Yeah, I love the pre-show here at Disney World. Josh and I quote it every time we do Dinosaur. I actually used to hate riding Dinosaur, and honestly, I just like riding it now because I love the pre-show.
Yeah.
And then I just scream the whole entire ride because it's dark and there's dinosaurs coming from everywhere. But it's fun now. But Indiana Jones, like Josh was saying, the queue is so long.
It is.
It's
a long walk.
You are walking way far back in there. It actually kind of makes sense, though, that I'm thinking about it now. That you're going into this, underground
right. I mean, you're going back in.
Type place.
For sure.
So it kind of fits the theming, but it is a hike.
Yeah. I do like the Indiana Jones theming more than I like Dinosaur here.
I do
but
too.
I'd rather it stay there. It gives me a reason. Another reason to kind of go back and enjoy Disneyland.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the ride itself, the vehicle's the same. It feels like you're riding in this like whatever jungle Jeep and Land Rover, Time
Jungle
Rover.
Jeep?
Yeah, jungle Jeep. Whatever. I want a shirt that says jungle Jeep. But Dinosaur is just so much more dark. Where Indiana Jones, I feel like you can see better.
Oh, absolutely.
And see like what's going on. And I really like the Indiana Jones version a lot. Like,
that's a good one.
I think that was, besides Cars, like Radiator Springs Racers, Indiana Jones was probably the ride that we rode like second.
Probably.
Most while we were out there.
Yep.
Because we really liked it.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about California Screamin', which is that's not what it's called. Right?
It's called the Incredicoaster.
Exactly.
Oopsie.
Versus Rock and Roller Coaster, which again, nowhere they're not the same attraction.
No.
Totally different styles of roller coasters as well, I think.
Pretty much. I mean, Incredicoaster's basically, it was like a wooden coaster. It's now got like a steel track.
Well, I just meant like the vehicle itself. In the way that it operates? No, actually, I don't think it is because it uses magnetics. And so I think they're actually the same type of like a coaster system. But obviously Rock and Roller Coaster, all inside, and Incredicoaster outside, which is really cool. Makes for some really great photos and video.
I just have to say, it's really funny that I put California Screamin' because I never rode California Screamin', so I don't know why I wrote that. And there have been multiple times where I'm talking about Pixar Pier and I call it Paradise Pier. And I was never there to even experience Paradise Pier. So I don't know why I call it that. It must be all the pictures I see on Instagram, like from the past.
Yeah,
I don't know. Throwback Thursdays.
So I guess something about the Incredicoaster, a couple things I really like about it. Number one is I think they did a pretty good job of theming a coaster that really probably can't get themed all that well.
Because it's outside.
Because it's outside. You don't have a lot of stuff to attach things to that don't kind of like make it look really odd and out of place. You know, I mean, if you took Rock and Roller Coaster and lifted the building off of it and still had all the signs and everything like that all outside, I think it would look very, very strange.
Yeah, agreed.
It probably wouldn't be sticking out like the Incredicoaster does because it doesn't go way up into the air like the Incredicoaster does. But it also, again, wouldn't be the same attraction either.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason that it's inside, number one, because it's Florida. Almost all of our attractions are inside. But it helps to develop that theme further. The thing with the Incredicoaster, it's very subtle, but it's well done, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing that I always think about is when you go out of the tunnel and there's Jack and you smell the cookies. And they've got just a few cookies here and there as you go racing by. Just little things like that. I mean, obviously, it's a roller coaster through and through, but they've done just a few things to theme it up a little bit more to make it a little more Pixar.
And the audio throughout the whole attraction is
very good as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the Incredicoaster. That was quite good. But I also love Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah, so do I. I don't think I could ever pick one or the other, like bobsleds and Everest.
Those are two that, like, you would have to, if you went to Disneyland and you went to Disney World, those would be two that you could not miss out on. Right.
You'd have to do them both. They both have a loop, so you go upside down. Either way, you've got overhead, over the shoulder harnesses that come down.
However, Rock and Roller Coaster, you have an inversion as well.
Oh, you do have an inversion as well. But what I really like too about the Incredicoaster is that that launch is outside, and you can just stand basically on the boardwalk pier area and watch them just go take off and see the water come up. And like I said, it makes for good video and some good photos if you can time it right and get the lighting right and things like that. So
yeah, cool. I
I
did enjoy standing there like a couple times just watching it launch.
Yeah. So.
Oh, now I want to be back in Disneyland.
I know, me too.
It was so much fun.
It was cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those are two that you can't just pick one or the other.
No, you have to.
Those two are both awesome.
You've got to experience them both. I I think hopefully in the near future we'll see Rock and Roller Coaster, the Rock and Roller Coaster get an overlay or
of
be rethemed of some sort, yeah, to a Disney IP.
I'm honestly surprised it hasn't already.
Yeah, I mean, it's been rumored for years with multiple different things, but I'm sure at some point it's going to come. It might be even later now.
Yeah, just with all this craziness.
But it'll happen. So, cool.
Next one.
Radiator Springs Racers versus Test Track. Now, I think people have said that this is the same track. It's not, but
it doesn't feel like it to me.
There's no way it could be the same track because you're basically you're dueling cars almost the entire way through.
No, you're not. Not till the end.
Oh, not till the end. But even then, I think it's still a little bit, it feels different though to me. So,
it feels different to me too. But it's hard to say because majority of Test Track is inside.
Right. And most of this is also inside as well, I guess.
I would say maybe half of it is inside.
Maybe.
Because I remember the first time we rode Radiator Springs Racers, like you load in like a covered area, but it's still basically outside and all the queues outside. And then you go out and it's like you're just like on this little Sunday drive and then you make this turn and like music changes and it's like you're seeing this like
yeah, you're seeing the landscape.
Like, and it's just like, what?
Yeah. I think I really prefer Radiator Springs to Test Track. It's
100%.
It's a great attraction. I don't agree with bringing it to Walt Disney World again.
Agreed.
I would rather have it out there. It's something to do out there. We don't need it here. I would like to see Test Track reimagined though.
Again?
Yeah, I actually really like the Test Dummies one.
I liked the original too.
I mean, I know that it's the same attraction, it just has a different overlay compared to whenever that was, but I like that way a little bit better. This like kind of weird futuristic Test Track technology and the way that it's kind of, to me, it's just not enough of like a futuristic type of theme with the lighting and how they do everything. So I would like to see it redone, something else. Even go back to the Test Dummies. I think that was cool.
I did like that.
A little bit more interactive, especially for kids. I mean, there were so many cool things to see in there when you walk through the queue.
Yeah. The queue now is quite
like
boring.
That. It's not like that anymore.
I mean, they've got like some cars and like some light up stuff in there, but it's not the same as looking at all those Test Dummies and watching them because they actually like tested in there. Like you could see it like hit the knee of that one thing and it like flicked its leg up. And
they did change some of that space so that you could design your own car, but at the same time, I think it would be better to be rethemed. So, Radiator Springs Racers is an awesome attraction. Really, really well done. Really well themed.
And let me tell you, I don't even like the Cars movies, but I love Radiator Springs, and I love the ride Radiator Springs Racers. The theming is just spot on.
It is. I mean, it is just, and it's just a fantastic attraction. And don't let people tell you that you have to be in one car or the other to always win the race, because that's not true. It is randomized, and you can win in any car, in any side.
We've won and we've lost, but mostly
on both sides. So, yeah.
I love Radiator Springs.
That's cool. Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters versus Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. Now, the Astro Blasters is in Disneyland. Space Ranger Spin is in Walt Disney World.
I'm looking at you like this because I'm interested to hear what you have to say about these two.
I like ours, but I would like to have the movable blasters like they do in Disneyland.
Yeah.
The only problem I had though with Disneyland was that like I felt like half the time my gun did not work. I had the worst time trying to get it to work. It just did not seem to want to function properly. So I don't know if it had been a while since it has been upgraded or updated, but
I don't know. But I actually did not like Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters in Disneyland because I did not like that you could pick up your trigger.
You mean pick up the gun?
The gun.
You can't pick up the trigger. You can pull the trigger.
You know what I meant. I thought it was really hard, and there were different targets. So there were like a couple different shapes, and different shapes were worth more points, and I felt I felt like I was riding the Men in Black at Universal.
Well,
because I feel like that is so hard, and I felt like Astro Blasters was really hard.
You just didn't understand how to get the high points.
Yeah, but we rode it like 3 times, and I still could not figure the stinking thing out, and my score was still like 5.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's still a good attraction. I would still prefer to have those. Like, I still like ours, I think, probably more than theirs. Mm-hmm. I would just like to have the option to pick it up and move it around. And does it spin in Disneyland? Can you still spin it, I think, right?
I don't remember.
You know, you almost don't have to be able to spin it in Disneyland because you can maneuver the gun any way you need to.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So I like Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin better at Walt Disney World because I like that all the targets are the same, and I feel like I can line my gun up better because it is on a stand and I'm not picking it up and trying to hold it. But I know you think or wish that yours would be able to be picked up. I just wish we had more, like, that it would stay on the stand, but you had more, like, room, like it could move and like pivot more. Right. Like, I wish it could go up and down higher, and I wish it could go left to right further.
That's what makes it challenging.
If it could do that a little bit more, I mean, because we already score Galactic Hero basically every time we ride it.
We don't even ride together, so.
So, I mean, what's it even matter? But, like, I love the ride because I love the competition that we have when we ride it. And that's why I love Toy Story Mania. And, like, I always want to get a Fast Pass for it. I mean, I love Slinky Dog, too. But, like, I'm always like, oh, I got to beat Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wish the gun could move a little bit more. That's all.
So let's talk about the last one that we have on our list, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, which is formerly Tower of Terror in Disneyland versus our Tower of Terror here in Walt Disney World. And I actually would like to see, I actually wouldn't mind a combination of the two. I prefer our track layout and ride here in Walt Disney World. It's a better theme than what is in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I did really like the video aspect and how they added that in there. But with that being said, I still like how ours is you go up the elevator, then you come out of the elevator and you go through the room and you go back into another elevator shaft. I like that a lot more, but it would be cool. I mean, like if it got to the point where they're like, I think we need to retheme this, it would be cool if they could retheme it to a Guardians of the Galaxy type of deal. I don't know that they ever will need to, or, with rights, I don't know, but it is always a super long wait, so.
Yeah, so I like ours a lot better here in Walt Disney World because I like the Twilight Zone theme. I loved that. I loved that I was scared to go on this ride as a child, and like now riding it now, I'm like, no wonder I was scared because this would be scary for a kid.
Yeah. Like,
I love that theming, but it's like, it's Disney scary. So it's not really scary, but it's like kind of scary.
A little bit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I did really like Mission Breakout at Disneyland. I liked the queue. I liked being able to see all the different, cool. And I like the queue at Disney World too. They're both very like immersive into like the story and everything. And I like the they do have a rocket audio animatronic at Disneyland in
and
the
he's
one
pretty cool.
queue, and in like the pre-show room, which would be like the library at Walt Disney World. I like that, but I don't like that it's one elevator shaft and it basically just goes up and down and you get on and off at the same spot, because that makes the line so much longer at Disneyland.
Right.
Even if you have a fast pass, I feel like you're waiting a while.
Yep.
Because those people get in that elevator, they have to go up and down and do their ride, and then they come down and they get out, and then the next group can get on. Where it's different at Walt Disney World, because we have 2 separate elevator shafts. You have the one that it goes up, then you go forward, and then you get in the dropping shaft.
And you still exit off of that same shaft.
Yes, in a different location. So then that way, like, it's just it's not continuously moving, but it moves a lot faster.
It can move more people.
Yes, just the way it's all set up. So I like that whole aspect of it a lot better than I do with the Disneyland version. But I did really like the screens. I thought that they were, like, super, super high definition. Like,
yeah.
I really felt like those characters were there, even though it was a screen.
You feel that it was better than the Fast and Furious of Universal?
Oh, God. Let's not even mention that, dear Lord.
The other thing about Guardians of the Galaxy is that it is a more relatable... it's a more relatable IP.
It is now, yes.
Our Tower of Terror is not an IP. We don't own the rights to that at all.
No, but it was a show.
But it is, it was a show, but we don't own the show either. That is a more relatable experience than what our Tower of Terror is. So in the future, they may change it. But at the same time, at least the track and how it works, I think is better than theirs.
Yes, I agree with that. I do really like the storylines at both places.
Storylines are good, yeah.
But I like that we have ours, and then I can go to Disneyland and I can do their version.
Right.
I just wish the track was a little bit different. That's always going to bother me.
Yep. So, cool. Well, that is all we've got for this week's weekly breakdown.
We made it through.
We made it the whole way through. Only had to watch a couple of POVs. Had no idea what we were talking about. So hopefully, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, you'll be back to listen again next week.
Hey, listen, I was relying on you to have read what we were talking about this week and to know what you were talking about so I could rely on you.
Yeah, disappointments everywhere.
Jeez.
But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. We are going to get started on Copycat Cocktails here shortly. So
Which you have hopefully already watched yesterday.
Yeah, hopefully. If you haven't, take the time, go back, check it out, leave us a comment and something you might like to see. Give us a big thumbs up. And we'll see y'all next week.